Hello everyone, and welcome to some more horrific news. Okay, bit of an opinion piece, and considering we're covering anime at the moment, I thought we'd take a look at it. 10 controversial anime series that fans can never forget. The anime industry has had a massive boom in mainstream popularity over the last decade, turning what once was a relatively niche entertainment medium into a worldwide staple. With that kind of growth, it's no surprise that the amount of anime being released each year has only increased, and shows that would have at one point in time been delegated to a small portion of the community begin to gain traction among general audiences. As with any form of media, some of these properties explode in popularity for all the wrong reasons. In many cases, anime series layered with infamy become, if you know, memes online, taking some of the most shocking or controversial scenes and turning them into ominous reaction images. However, there are times when these controversial anime series become so sensationalized that fans can't help but try to understand how these shows ever got the production greenlight in the first place. Um, yeah, before we jump into this, one thing I've noticed, like I've watched anime like since the 90s, and obviously recently taken more of a deep dive, especially the horror leaning ones. There's a lot of nuance in anime. It's one of those mediums that you can't really get away with live action. I think we've talked about that in some of our reviews. And what's initially shocking is used as a storytelling device. It's actually quite clever. But anyway, we'll take a look. I think there's one or two of these before I covered, but let's have a go. School Days. Based on the slice of life dating simulator released in 2005, School Days is a deeply infamous franchise for the drastic, out of left field violent endings that made the series popular. The story is familiar for fans of the harem genre, following Makoto Ito, a first year high school student who becomes infatuated with another girl in his class named Katanoa Katsura, who rides the same train as him during their school commute. He enlists the help of his fellow classmate and friend, Seiki Saoniji, to help him win the girl. While the plot is relatively simple, it begins to take a steep dive. What turned the 2007 animated adaptation of School Days into such a controversial show, aside from the main story, is because of an event that many anime fans refer to as the Nice Boat meme. On September 17th, 2007, when the anime's finale was set to air in Japan, a horrific murder took place that was slightly too similar to the gratuitous yandere-fueled violence found in episode 12 of School Days. As the crime was being reported, TV Kanagawa cancelled the final episode of School Days, and instead filled the programming block with stock footage of Europe, including footage of the boat. Ironically, the finale of School Days also featured a boat, leading to a peculiar moment in anime history becoming a meme. Happy Sugar Life. This is one we have covered. Be interesting to see what they think about it. Happy Sugar Life on the surface seems to live up to what the title suggests. The story opens by introducing audiences to Sato Masasuka, a seemingly average high school girl with a bubbly personality and an adorable aesthetic. One day, Sato runs into a very young girl named Shio, who becomes extremely attached to Sato after being abandoned by her mother. Sato ends up taking the young girl to live with her in her apartment, making her vow that the two of them will protect one another no matter what happens, even if it means killing those who get in their way. Having a yandere premise is one thing, but Happy Sugar Life's biggest controversy lies in the extremely problematic age gap between the two main characters. Shio was only 8 years old in the main series, and while it would be one thing if the relationship was depicted as being negative or toxic, the script never does anything to try and vilify Sato's actions. The series' taboo and poorly handled subject matter have caused it to become popular in discussions about yandere anime for all the wrong reasons. Right, obviously check out our review. We spent over 4 hours going through this entire series. I don't think this author gets the concept of unreliable narrator, and at the end of the day, as we discussed, also this idiot gives away the whole premise of the series. Right, this bit, Shio being abandoned by her mother, that is towards the end of series reveal. In fact, the whole series has you guessing what's going on here, and if you've got two brain cells, you're not going along this thinking, oh, this is all sweet and nice. It's not. It's deliberately doing it. This person's an idiot, whoever wrote this. You can tell this is in fact, they use the word problematic. It shows you're dealing with a dickhead anyway. This is some probably Southern Californian twat who's lived a sheltered life. This is a dark series, and it uses its imagery to jar you. You can check out our full review. It's really went deep into it, and yeah, this is just a basic version that just looks on the surface. Anyway, Pupa. Pupa has a unique privilege of being one of the worst rated anime of all time, with a whopping 3.29 on my anime list, adapted from an original manga with the same name by Sayaka Mugi. Pupa follows a pair of siblings, Utsutsu and his little sister Yume, after being abandoned by both of their parents and attempting to piece their lives together after surviving an abusive childhood. The pair are once again dealt an awful hand when they become infected with an otherworldly curse called Pupa. While Yume gives in to the infection, Utsutsu instead gains regenerative properties. In order to keep his sister from turning into a monster, Utsutsu begins to feed his sister his flesh. Admittedly, Pupa's source material isn't that bad. The artwork, especially of the monsters, is gorgeously illustrated, and the original story is serviceable for those looking for a gore-filled horror manga. The main controversy comes from the anime adaptation, which shaved down the story to be nearly nonsensical, keeping only the most gratuitous aspects of the main story intact, aside from glaring production issues. The anime adaptation also glorified the sibling complex trope that was unfortunately baked into the story. Right, I've never seen this one, however, I don't trust this author. Animation is, in my opinion, a legitimate form of artwork. It's the same as you can have adult movies and kids movies, and I think what's happening is people are expecting cartoons. Like I said, it's hit mainstream because it's animated. They're expecting cartoons, childish stuff. I'll have to ask Flea about this one if he's seen it, and it might end up being one for the list. So with two siblings, well, obviously had a bit of a shit background, they're going to be broken, and that's one thing that anime explores. I think as well because of the rigid culture in Japan, and we've talked about this as well, they can't discuss this stuff openly. Where, let's take Dumb Yankistan for example, they stub their toe and it's all over social media and they whine about it for a week. You know, that's their culture. Unfortunately, their culture's infesting ours, and it's starting to happen here more and more of oversharing. You know, every little thing has to be discussed and blasted out there that it becomes trivial. Where Japan still has a very reserved culture, so they don't talk about a lot of stuff, and anime is actually a mechanism to bring it out in the open, you know, through the back door, so to speak. So I, for one, can see where it comes from and why they're touching such issues. But once again, they're not cartoons. Yes, you can have anime for kids, and there's a reason these things have age ratings on them, but people tend to gloss over that. Anyway, let's go on. Horimo, a staple from the early 2010s due to its colourful aesthetic. Horimo's popularity quickly turned into a controversial infamy once fans of the show realised the direction that it was taking with its endgame couplings. Based on the original light novel by Tsukasa Fushimi, Horimo follows Kyoshi Kosaka, a teenager who hasn't gotten along with his younger sister, Karino, in years. One day, while digging through a DVD case, he discovers his sister's secretive otaku hobbies, which he uses to help rebuild their relationship over the course of the series. To the shock and horror of many anime fans, Karino and Kiyosuke are the endgame couple in Horimo. The surprising ending obviously generated a massive amount of backlash from audiences, and will forever be remembered for his problematic romance. A side story titled Horimo, Kuroneko rectifies this by pairing Kosuke with Ruri, but the spin-off manga is ultimately considered non-canon. Alright, don't know anything about this one. Once again, problematic. Once I see that word, I instantly write off the author. If anyone ever says that to me, or ever starts a sentence with as a insert whatever, I automatically think you're an idiot. That's just the way it is. Anyway, Elfen Lied. That's one we've covered on the channel as well. Elfen Lied is a psychological sci-fi horror series that was originally created by Lin Okamoto and published in Sushisa's Weekly Young Jump in 2002, before being adapted into a television anime series by Arms and Studio Guts in 2004. The series primarily focuses on the Diclonius, a mutated human species with horn-like features on their heads and invisible arms that function similarly to telekinetic abilities. After one of these mutants, named Lucy, escapes from the government facility, she's been held in for what seems like her entire life. She washes up on the coast of Kamakura, forgetting her old personality and instead taking on the childlike identity of New. The series is considered controversial due to its intense depictions of violence, particularly violence towards the female characters and animals throughout the series. The level of abuse the Diclonius characters endure at the hands of the humans, whether it be the government or just civilians, seems almost needlessly cruel. The ultra-violent, over-the-top edginess presented in Elfen Lied makes the show that difficult to forget. This person's an idiot. How can you show villains without letting you see them doing villainous things? And once again, this series has a lot of nuance in it, and there's good and bad on both sides, not just the humans but the Diclonius, and it's balanced out with the kindness of family and that, which brings it in too. The more I'm reading this, the more I'm realising it's just sensationalised crap for normies. Once again, there's a reason these are age rated and they're called horror, because that's what you get. I think this idiot just expecting to watch cartoons, probably all they're mentally capable of anyway. On to the next one. The Rising of the Shield Hero. To the surprise of many Rising of the Shield Hero fans, when the anime adaptation first debuted in 2019, the series wasn't as heavily criticised as much of the community expected. While the show was panned for its blatant issues, such as its poor handling of fantasy slavery and its initial plot hook being a character fighting back against false allegations made against him, the anime community generally enjoyed what the first season of the show had to offer. Now they're doing the anime community thing. Once again, once somebody starts throwing community in there, you tell they're a collectivist idiot. Interestingly, fans of the show only started to reflect on its previous writing issues upon the release of the second season, which drastically altered the pacing of the anime and hurt the development of much of the show's cast. The shift in storytelling ultimately made the poor handling of the aforementioned subjects in season 1 more obvious, which has caused many fans of the show to turn their backs on Nafumi's adventures. That happens a lot. Arcane season 1 was brilliant, really nuanced and had character development, and then I didn't even finish season 2. I got a couple of episodes in and just went, nah, like they devolved everybody, and all that storytelling and world building just destroyed. It happens a lot. Goblin Slayer. Some series earn their infamous status as soon as their first episode airs, something Goblin Slayer is all too familiar with. Based on a dark fantasy light novel series by Kumo Kagu, Goblin Slayer's anime adaptation was released at the height of the Isaki and Isaki-like genre popularity. The content of the first episode was so extreme that it immediately had the anime community talking. The series opens by introducing its audience to a priestess newly adventuring. On her first quest with her party, things quickly go awry when they come across a goblin, and things take a disturbing turn due to the goblin's particularly depraved breeding habits. The young woman ends up being rescued by the titular Goblin Slayer, a vigilante adventurer who wipes out hordes of goblins using extreme measures. While the first episode of the anime was a nail in the coffin for most potential fans of the series, the manga hasn't been free of controversy either, being banned in 2020 from Kinoko Kanawa bookstores in Australia for promoting problematic content. Fuck off with that word, you cunt. Ugh, right. I'm getting more and more annoyed. I'm realizing that the person who wrote this is an absolute dickhead, so forgive me if I'm getting a bit raged here. Redo of a Healer. One of the most talked about anime when it released in 2021, Redo of a Healer is perhaps one of the most controversial fantasy series ever released, and for good reason. The story follows Kaira, a healing hero, who after enduring years of the kind of abuse at the hands of his so-called party members and allies, discovers a way to push his magical abilities and sends himself back in time to enact his revenge by inflicting the same level of abuse he dealt with under the future party members. If the anime adaptation of Redo of a Healer was announced, fans of the medium were vocal about the content of the series, pointing out that the worst the series has to offer is what Redo of a Healer uses to draw in its audience. The first 2 episodes of the anime possesses a large brunt of the gratuitous content as a way to keep audiences invested, which perfectly sums up how this series has nothing to say regarding the content it chooses to discuss, instead using it as pure shock value. Mushoku Tensei, Jobless Reincarnation. Despite its glowing reviews, Mushoku Tensei Jobless Reincarnation has its fair share of controversy surrounding the source material and anime adaptation. To be fair, Mushoku Tensei doesn't try to shy away from its dicier story elements. Rudeus is shown from the very beginning to be lecherous, and even when he starts to mature and change, he makes extremely over-the-top mistakes in regard to how he treats much of the female cast. While many fans have been able to look over Rudeus' previous mistakes, and even the type of person he was in his former life, he still makes a number of frustrating decisions throughout the story. Additionally, the series does begin to snowball into harem territory towards the end of the second series, something adapted directly from the source material that doesn't seem to be changing with the release of the anime. In spite of all its issues, Mushoku Tensei has been gorgeously adapted by Studio Bind, and regardless of one's feeling towards its content, it deserves its flowers for production quality alone. Made in Abyss. Gut-wrenching, horrific, and hopeless are all the words that could be used to describe the desolate world of Made in Abyss. Originally created by Akito Tsuke, Made in Abyss takes place in a haunting dark fantasy realm, wherein an orphan girl named Riko sets out to explore the titular abyss, a massive crevice that descends deep into the earth as a cave raider, following in the footsteps of her mother, who's thought to be deceased after vanishing during her final descent. Or still, those who choose to dive deep into the abyss are afflicted with a curse that causes them to undergo horrific maladies should they attempt to return to the surface. Made in the Abyss has been called out by anime fans on multiple occasions for how young the characters look, coupled with the intense nature of the perils they're forced to survive as they traverse through the abyss. The amount of gore and other sensitive subject matter in the series already makes Made in the Abyss difficult to watch, but with the core cast looking like small children, it makes sense that the show would be controversial. Still, the show has endured in popularity, and the manga isn't planning on coming to an end anytime soon. And that is it. Right, this article is complete and utter bollocks. Who wrote it? Anna Williams. Right, you're an arsehole. Notice they picked all the horror ones. So this is somebody who watches cartoons. They just want fluffy, cute nonsense. And yeah, anything with spicier storyline that can't cope with. And one thing I've noticed in starting the review series and looking deeper into it, what's the difference between having teenagers in every horror movie? Look at every teen drama out there. They use 20-year-olds and they're happy to have them sexualized, etc., etc. It's all fine. Fucking look at CW channel, for example, all that shite they produce with their open brackets, sexy teenagers and all that. You know, the hypocrisy of this bitch is unreal. The difference is in anime, they use children, you know, they draw them. And stuff you couldn't do live action, for example, you know, with actual child cast, which makes sense. You wouldn't anyway. Expect the child to act in the sort of intense sequences. You know what I mean? That's correct. That's where this gives it. But it points a finger, shines a light on the world. The world isn't nice and fluffy. Horrible things happen. And it's that whole thing of what are the point of horror stories? The horror stories are to shine a light on the monsters. The worst thing to do is to pretend monsters don't exist. That's where people end up in trouble. You know, and that's always been the function of horror. Yeah, this silly bitch doesn't understand it whatsoever. And yeah, I think this was initially meant to be a clickbait article. But yeah, I'm saying I am annoyed. I'll not lie, I'm annoyed. Especially with the series, because the series really go into detail. And if I don't like something or if I think it's stupid, you know that there, I'll call it out, which I have done. on with anime. I'm not sitting here with rose-tinted glasses on. There's some really good stuff and there's some terrible stuff as well, like any medium. But for example, Happy Sugar Life, that's the most recent one I've covered. It's a bloody dark series, and it's no way saying this is fine and right. That's one of the comments I made throughout the review, is that the wrongness, it's screaming at you. It's itching in the back of your brain. This isn't right. It's not fluffy and not nice, and you're questioning everything. You understand how the circumstances, the events take place, which unlike this bitch, I'm not going to spoil, but nobody's saying it was right, and nobody's saying that the things happening were good. And the question is, how do broken people heal? Elfin Line's another one. How many times have we seen this in mainstream stuff? Alien species getting captured and experimented on. The whole X-Men series is based on that. Why is that okay? I think this whole fluffy, childish, infantilized world we live in is ridiculous. And a lot of these series they're talking about are from the 90s and early 2000s. Everything has been sanitized because these silly little tits can't deal with any hardship whatsoever. But anyway, there you go. Let me know what you think. And until next time, keep updated the channel, do the type of things, and remember to keep it creepy, keep it horrific.